Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's on the Round Table. I'm Luca, and this is TJ.
Hello there.
And for tonight's movie, we are reviewing Adam Sandler's Jack and Jill. So,
Oh,
Jack and Jill is a family comedy about um, Jack and his sister Jill, who reunite for the holidays. And during Jill's stay at Jack's house, she annoys him greatly and causes all sorts of mayhem around the house.
and things happen.
Things
Yeah.
happen indeed. So, TJ, what made you want to review this movie?
You want to review this movie? Well, again, like Ratchling before this, I thought we were reviewing too many good movies. No, that's a fine opinion. Yeah. But also, but what else? At the time, this movie was on my mind for some reason. I think I might have been just kind of curious. I think I was just kind of curious about it. I like my history of the film is that it's not very extensive. Like I watched it twice, maybe thrice as a child, but not much. Not much else. And yeah, and so I was just kind of interested in it. Do you have any history with this film beyond this review?
I've heard about it back in middle school. One of my friends said it was their favorite movie, and he especially enjoyed the part where Jill says, "I have to go chocolate Smarties."
Yeah. Okay. I think we'll get to that with the comedy, but a few. So a few good. I hope you don't mind me just going to a few good things about this movie. If people, so this is actually connected to your friend. So people like this movie, and that's great. There's nothing really terrible about it. It's not too offensive, not too offensive racially. It's not, yeah, and and if it's brought somebody joy, that's great. And saying that, and there has been a lot of, and in some elements, there is a lot of work put in this movie, like akin to a lot of other movies. They have a lot of work into it.
Such as the ad scene and the plays with Al Pacino.
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah. We'll get into that. But also, so yeah, this is, oh boy. So what else? Yeah, let's say yeah. Just off the bat, I did not like this movie. What? How did you like it, Luca? How did you like
I
it?
didn't like it all that much either.
Okay.
Although I find it funny that Adam Sandler is playing two people, it just gets too much.
That's not. Yeah, I don't. I guess that's a good place to start. Let's talk about Adam Sandler. Who, like, how'd you find his performance in this movie? How'd you find his?
It's okay. I'm more into his older movies.
I don't find it too good. Adam Sandler. Here's the thing. Adam Sandler can act like like he can act like in Uncut Gems is a great example. Like we've told about that before. He doesn't have the most range. He's very good at playing people who are stressed or very tense or angry. But still, like again with Uncut Gems, he has a good range within those emotions. Like he's desperate, sad, gleeful, and also going back to his older movies, he's good in a more comedic sense. Like I'm thinking, The Waterboy comes to mind, where he has an annoying voice, sure, but that's not just his character. He has like he's strange. He has all these weird little quirks and all this stuff. In this movie, let's starting with Jack. Jack just his performance in Jack just feels so tired and underplayed. He doesn't he just seems kind of grumpy all the time, and it doesn't and sometimes he's kind of happy. it just is not. It just feels super tiring, and whether or not that's Adam Sandler or the director or both is not. I don't know. Anything to say on Jack?
I think he should have been more happy in the movie. So
Mm,
that we don't see him as a dull character.
yeah, we don't really. Yeah, we don't really. We don't. This will probably come to the plot later, but we don't really see his life before Jill. Speaking of which, his Jill is an annoying voice, and that's kind of her character. He's just I get like again, Adam's like it's yeah, Jill is just so she's kind of dull, kind of one notes to me. She's a little better. Adam Sandler plays her a little better than his performance with Jack, but it's not. But it's just sort of a different kind of bad. Like he's not. Yeah. Again, playing Waterboy, he has a funny voice, but he has range in that character. Here, it's just kind of a funny voice, and sometimes you're supposed to feel sad about the funny voice.
Yeah.
And
But
yeah,
going back to
most
the
of the
last point, they do show clips of Jack and Jill as kids, like
yeah,
the part where they show Jill's armpit hair and them as babies.
they show a few.
Like
Well,
they just
before,
show a few clips of them as younger
yeah,
people,
and
but it's
before
we don't
that,
know much.
yeah, and before that, we do see like random like interviews with like real twins, which
Yeah,
is which just has nothing to do with the rest of the movie, and it's just it just feels kind of artificial. But yeah,
I think they put those reviews in to show the bond between Jack and Jill as twins.
instead of like showing the bond between them as Jack and Jill's twins. Anyways,
But
so
it just the viewer doesn't know that. Like
so why
it's not clear.
so why didn't they show us the bond they had? We'll get into that later, but I would like to get into that later.
Yeah.
But are any other interesting performances worth mine? I can think of one at the top of my head, like the one person kind of brings the one light in this deep pit of shit. But anyone else, like you can think of?
All I can think of is the scenes with Al Pacino.
Yeah, yeah, there's not much. Yeah, most of the other cast is kind of tired and just it feels like they're kind of phoning it in. Like, but then there's Al Pacino, who is the one recurring entertaining element of the movie. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you think? So would you agree?
Kind of. Yes and no. Uh, a, I think he's funny in some scenes, but
Yeah,
it's just creepy to watch.
yeah. It is. It is
But
creepy,
like
but
it's just impossible to it's just impossible for us to watch him with Jill.
yeah, it's just he does seem to be well, for one, he is one of the few people we see on screen that seems to be having fun. I think that's about think about it for a while, and I think that's why I he works at least from what I can tell. He is he is having fun with the performance, and although I don't think he's funny throughout, he does have a few funny jokes. There's a few funny some of the few funny jokes in the movie. Anything else? Let's see. Beyond that, there's Juan, who is a character.
Who?
Juan, like Jill's boyfriend, the Mexican guy. Felipe. No, he's Juan.
No, his name is Felipe.
Felipe. No, Felipe. No, that's what he calls his family Felipe to make a joke on Jill. Actually, no, you're right. I think he's Felipe.
Yeah.
But no, he's Felipe. But so that's the thing. But anyways, enough about the characters. So what? Let's talk about the main element of this film. It's a comedy. How'd you find the comedy?
I find it unbearable,
Or
but mostly
yeah,
unbearable. But I think
mhm,
it has a couple funny scenes put in.
yeah,
Like a few
agreed.
scenes are okay for me.
Yeah, there are a few jokes that work for me. Like going back to Al Pacino, there's a funny gag with involving subtitles, which I found to be clever, and there are one or two well done jokes. But for the most part, it feels very it feels very underdeveloped and yeah underdeveloped and and very flaccid. Like there's a many so a lot of this like a lot of the comedy is verbal. It's and derived from character interactions.
Let's be honest.
But
Everything about the movie is underdeveloped.
so, yes, that's probably the big problem with I would have with the movie. It
Hmm.
does feel personally it just feels lazy in a number of ways. But in the case of the comedy, so a lot of the jokes they just don't feel. A lot of the jokes they just feel like not very fleshed out, and and going back to the performances, a lot of them just don't help much either. They take out of a lot. They take out a lot of the air, which would anything. They take out a lot of the air of the jokes and make a lot of them not super, very dull and understated. But
Yeah.
let's yeah. But let's talk about the chocolate squirt. Well, let's talk about the gross out, the chocolate squirty scenes and such.
Here we
Do
go.
you think that was better? How do you think they've handled all that?
Um, I think they handled it okay.
I don't
Like,
think I don't think so. I think again, just going to the
at least
underdeveloped.
it's not super gross. It's not a super gross scene.
Yeah, it's not. I don't even think it's that gross. To me, a lot of the gross out and, for lack of a better term, gawk humor just feels lazy.
Hmm.
Like I'm just thinking. So we mentioned Felipe. Felipe, yeah, and there's a scene where Jill goes to a party. I believe it's a New Year's party or
New Year's party.
yeah. No, and basically there's a weird looking old lady, and that's the joke. She's just a weird old Mexican lady who eats jalapenos, and she gets hit a lot, and it just feels very bare bones and just lazy. It just
Is it even really a joke?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't really think it is a joke,
They
and
just
a
want to
lot.
put in a grandma eating spicy foods.
I
Like,
mean, yeah.
yeah,
Otherwise, we'd just be otherwise just seeing a boring scene. But yeah, but also a few of the jokes just go on forever. Like that's another recurring element of the comedy. There really is no attention put doesn't it doesn't feel to be a lot of attention put into the timing because again, going back to the chocolate sporty scenes, that goes on for 5 minutes and it
yeah.
goes on and on and on and it just becomes boring after a while.
I think that's a good
Same
example of one of their lazy comedy scenes.
yeah, same thing. Yeah, same thing with the feeder scene. Same there's a feeder scene that also has a similar problem where it's
Yeah,
just so not clever.
so
And there's
goddamn lazy.
and there's a few and there's a few scenes and there's also just some reoccurring gags. Some a few minor exceptions are good, but for most part just aren't super funny and are usually said over and over again without much escalation or variation. Like I'm thinking the twin like the twin language thing and the yeah and the like Felipe's joke. It's a yeah just very late. Just again just feels lazy and underdeveloped. But let's see. So let's talk about the plot. My least. Oh boy. So Luca, you do editing. You know how editing works. How'd you find the editing in this movie?
Shit.
Yeah, it's it's off. Yeah, it's. So here's a quick little thing. Like another reason I almost forgot. One of the reasons I chose to review this movie was because last week we reviewed Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and that movie cost a little under $1 million to make, like just say around a million, and they do so much for that budget. So Luca, guess what the budget of this movie is?
What?
No, you have to make a guess.
900,000.
79 million. $79 million.
You're joshing me, right?
Look it up. It is the budget, and like 79 times Monty Python's budget, and they do so much less. And granted, those two films, they're very different. They're very different. Like, one's a fantasy film, one's a more, like, more real, more modernity type thing. But still, like, it's so. Where did the money go?
You got to be joshing me.
Oh, it's 79 million, which is like that's not like blockbuster money, but like for this film of this scale, it's just so strange. But yeah, getting to the plot, it's just the worst element of this movie. I just like it just goes nowhere. The plot goes absolutely nowhere for the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, this movie literally begins and ends with advertisements. Like, and I'm not talking about like a poor product placement, although that's in there too. Like, literally, we're watching ads at the beginning and the end, and it's so weird. So this brings us to Jack is an ad executive. That's his whole job.
Mm-hmm.
That's his whole job. Hence why the ads. And I guess the idea is that he needs to get I guess the thing that's supposed to move the movie forward is that the idea that he needs to get Al Pacino in this Dunkin' Donuts ad, which we see in its entirety later in the end. Yeah, and I guess the idea is that he will, if he doesn't get him, like everyone's gonna get fired, even though they seem perfectly fine. Like they're making a commercial. There's no real decay. They seem perfectly fine, but also Don Pacino doesn't appear until halfway through the movie. It's so tiring. Like these, and like the whole beginning just is so boring. Like we just see Jill doing things for half an hour. Like she goes to the house, they have a dinner scene for Thanksgiving, and it's which is boring and which just feels very boring and unfunny. But like, hey, I guess it moves the plot forward. Then we see a terrible montage which would make the Soviets turn in their graves, which doesn't move the plot forward at all. Then we go to a Lakers game. Why couldn't we go there earlier? God forbid.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, and Jill meets Al Pacino for the first time, and Al Pacino is infatuated with her. And then they move, and then more stupid stuff happens. Like they need a birthday party, which doesn't go anywhere. Then Jill has another day with Al Pacino, and then which doesn't go well for Jill. And then she goes to this is the New Year's party thing we mentioned earlier, where Felipe invites her to the New Year's party. But the thing is, and I guess the idea is that that's another problem. Nothing feels established. Going with Felipe and such. Felipe and Jill are supposed to be like a couple, like they get to know each other throughout the movie, but they only interact 3 times, 4 times, including the end. And instead, we get another terrible, terrible montage of a
Exactly.
party happening, and it's so boring. And then we get the squirty scene. Then we get a Caribbean cruise ad. Then finally then and then Jack kind of betrays, and then Jack goes on a date dressed up as Jill to not the final date with Dunkachino, and movies, they're supposed to, you want characters to go through an arc. Like, we would like to see like characters change throughout the movie and adapt throughout. And maybe Jill, but no, not in this film, not in this avant-garde masterpiece. Instead, Al Pacino, instead of having all that paced out throughout the movie, Al Pacino just goes, hey, just tells Jack exactly why he should love his sister, and why she is good and all.
Yeah.
And then he just changes his mind on the spots, and then we get to the emotional climax, which is the most which is one of the worst endings I've seen in like movie history. It's so lazy, so rushed, and instead we get like this
And so
10-minute,
unfunny.
this 10-minute. That's to be expected. Instead, we get this one Dunkin' Donuts ad. The movie undercut its own emotional core for a Dunkin' Donuts ad, and it's so, yeah. And what makes and it's so frustrating because we don't see any character. We don't see any characters. We don't really get any establishment or anything. Like Jack and Jill's mom dies, and Jack, like, I understand, like, he's probably gone through the grieving process and moved on, but like, really, you're not going to sympathize with Jill at all? Like, there's never a scene where Jack and Jill really interact or like get to know each other. Same thing with Felipe, or really any character besides maybe Jill and Al Pacino. And at the end, it's just so. And at the end, you don't feel like you've accomplished anything. It's just so. It's so.
Yeah, I think they should have given more depth to Felipe's character and given more of a role in the movie.
Yes, they could put anything in the movie, anything at all.
Like, he only appears in 3 scenes. Like, we need to see more of him. We need to see more scenes where he bonds with Jill.
Anything, yeah, anything.
And it would definitely give the movie more emotion too.
Anything. Like, there's also just also the whole gimmick is that Jack and Jill are played by Adam Sandler. That's all joke. But they also don't. The only times they really interact is 3 times in the whole movie. Otherwise, they're just on one side of the screen and the other. There's a clear divide, and it's just so lazy. This movie, it's just, again, and it's just so boring and lazy and just nonsensical. Is it the worst movie ever made? I wouldn't say so, but that's not a weird. But that's a detriment to the movie. Weirdly enough, it's just so nothing. It is just.
I think they interact more than 3 times, though. I think like 5 or 6 times they talk to each other.
And this is like interacting like with characters or like talking to each
No,
other.
I'm talking
because they talk more than 3
No.
times. But
I mean Jack and Jill talking to each other. Like, they talk more than 3 times.
No, they talk to each other plenty. But what I mean is like being like on different planes of the scene, or like touching each other, or acting with each other in a way that isn't them on 2 sides of the screen. Like,
Yeah, like they're always on different frames. Like it's just a bunch of lazily edited cuts put together. Like
just
we don't get enough scenes of the characters on the same frame.
you don't we don't. Yeah, it's just so. What else is? It is just so boring. Like everything just feels like the bare minimum. If this movie was any more bare bones, it'd be the Nancy of the film world. It's so this movie. It's just. Uh, so, what would you rate this, Luca?
I would rate it a 3 out of 10. You?
I'd rate it. I think this movie's abysmal, but I would probably rate it I'd rate it 1, if not 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10. Like if you like Happy Madison films, i.e. Grown Ups, All Mark Hop, anything like that, you might enjoy this film, but but honestly, it is to me not really worth your time or anything. And again, let me reiterate: if you enjoy this movie, that's great. And although I was mean to this movie, there is a lot of effort that's gone into this movie. But it's just so.
But it's used wrong.
Nothing. Like I'm thinking, like, oh yeah, Joe goes on a date with a man named Fun Bucket. And we see a shot where the idea is that she's supposed to look ugly and she's walking down the stairs, but it's so bare bones and lazy. Like I was thinking to myself, oh, well that movie is symmetrical. I would like she doesn't like she's in a dress, but she's not particularly ugly compared to the rest of the movie. Like Fun Bucket's actor is very boring. It's just so barren.
Yeah. I think the movie is bad, but I wouldn't give it a 2 or a 1. Like, it's not that bad for me. Like falling into the failure category. I'd say it's on the verge of falling into that category.
I would say it's worse than a failure. They didn't try. And they don't deserve and in my opinion, they don't deserve a 3. Like, 3, like, there is no, like, they didn't fail because they were too ambitious or too amateurish or anything like that. They failed because they didn't try.
Yes, and I respect your opinion.
That is my argument. My opinion is that it's a 2 or 1 out of 3. Yeah. But yeah. I give this, it's a 2 Dunkachinos out of 10. I need to plug my computer in. Luca, what are we doing next week?
So, next week I would like to review another family/comedy film. And I think you'll find more joy in watching it than you do watching this. I want to review The Royal Tenenbaums.
Royal Tenenbaums. Okay. In all fairness, that's sort of an insult. That's like saying you don't have a gun to your head. Like, sure, you don't have a gun. Like, sure, it's good that you don't have a gun to your head, but you're not comparing yourself. But at what point do you say to yourself, at least I don't have a gun to my head? But saying that, I'm so excited for the Royal Tenenbaums. I hear good things about it. I like the director. But, all right. So, anyways, any last words, Luca?
Yes. Please don't bother watching this movie. It's garbage.
It's fine. It's fine. Now, yeah. Did you say your recommendation? You wouldn't. So
I wouldn't recommend it. No.
All right. Alrighty then. So this movie's just very bad. Long live Jack and Jill. And I give it 5 Dunkachinos out of 5. And goodbye, Luca. And cut.
Bye, TJ. Thank you for joining me.